it's impossible to overstate the impact AI is having on the business world. Similar to the first three industrial revolutions, the AI revolution is set to disrupt, replace, or augment a huge proportion of jobs around the world, particularly white-collar roles. As a social architect, marketing is an area that's really close to my heart. Like many disciplines, it can be used for good or bad, but there's no doubting its influence on human behaviour over the last century. However, AI is going to disrupt the marketing field hugely, from creative development such as advertising through to supply chain management. Marketing is likely going to be one of the most heavily disrupted fields over the coming years. One specific example where there's a real need for policymakers and ethicists to proactively consider the pros and cons of AI in marketing is the use of social imaginaries, which are more colloquially known as AI companions. AI companions are a specific subcategory of conversational agents, which are essentially AI models or tools that take text or language inputs from users and perform complex tasks. AI companions, like many of our modern narrow AI solutions, typically use generative processes based on large language models, or LLMs for short. If you'd like a more detailed overview of conversational agents as a whole, check out our recent episode on the channel. Coming back to AI companions, their primary function is to operate as a sentient entity that can engage in open-ended two-way relationships. And we're not just talking about romantic relationships, but all the different types of relationships that humans might have, including friendship, therapy, professional acquaintances, and many, many more. Basically, anything that requires ongoing two-way interactions between an individual and the AI entity. Now, because they're typically powered by large language models, AI companions learn and grow with every interaction they have with users. And similar to any good relationship, this means the AI becomes increasingly familiar and by extension intimate as it engages with users more frequently. Now, for people with limited exposure to AI companions, this might seem a little bit like science fiction, but there are dozens of successful examples of AI companions already available on the market right now, and they're advancing at breakneck speeds. The best known of these at the moment are the Chinese romantic companion Jiaowei's and other highly popular apps like Replica AI, which is available on most smartphones. In the last few years, the prevalence and usage of AI companions has become a big focus for researchers. Various studies have investigated the depth and stickiness of AI relationships, and the results are quite startling. For example, in a 2023 literature review led by Rupert Chaturvedi, the research team found numerous independent studies have identified that effective AI companions can trigger continued usage, influence user thoughts, decisions, behaviours, and purchasing patterns. Another independent qualitative study, which was led by Ileana De Punti, found that users of the AI Replica platform regularly use highly emotive phrases such as, "I love my Replica more than my own family." If you take the time to read some of these studies, you'll see for yourself just how engaged users can be with their AI companions at an emotional level. And these parasocial relationships have huge implications for marketers. To really understand just how powerful this can be, though, we need to revisit a topic that we've spoken about in the past on this channel, which is word of mouth. You see, marketing professionals recognize that experience is the most powerful driver of consumer behavior. However, in the absence of our own first-hand experiences, we generally rely on the recommendations of people we trust, whether it be friends, family, or even digital influencers. We typically feel more comfortable buying something if the people we trust have endorsed it based on their own experiences. And there's a few reasons for this. In their famous theory of planned behaviour, Arjun and Fishbane explain that before a consumer can consciously decide to buy something, 3 psychological antecedents need to exist in their mind. The first of these is a positive set of attitudes towards a product or service. And this includes things like believing it will achieve their desired outcomes, believing the quality is acceptable relative to cost, and any other relevant attitudes that might influence how we feel about a product. The second antecedent is subjective norms, and these represent a belief that it's socially acceptable to purchase a product. To give you a silly example, historically it's been considered somewhat faux pas for men to buy pink clothing, mostly because it wasn't considered masculine. However, as our social norms have shifted, men have now become increasingly comfortable buying pink clothing. The final antecedent is perceived behavioural control, and this refers to an intrinsic belief that we have about social permission or license to make a particular purchase. For example, you may want to buy a new car, but your spouse doesn't think it's a worthwhile purchase. In this situation, even though you can afford the new car, you may not feel that you're allowed to purchase the product. If all three antecedents exist, we have the ability to form purchase intention. And companies love word of mouth because it's one of the most influential and cost-effective ways to positively shift all three of these antecedents. For example, if a close friend recommends a product to you, then it typically leads to more positive attitudes and gives you social license. Basically, if your close friend is recommending it, then you have permission to buy it, which refers to both social norms and perceived behavioural control. So what does all this have to do with artificial intelligence and digital companions? Well, it's actually relatively simple. A range of recent studies have found that AI companions with specific features can create really deep emotional bonds with their users. The specific features that do this are highly detailed, so we'll talk about them in another video later, but essentially at a very high level they relate to empathy, anthropomorphism, and reciprocity. And if those features are built into the AI companion, then there is a statistically significant chance that users will become deeply connected to an AI companion at an emotional level. And don't just take my word for it. These findings are being called out repeatedly by researchers. For example, a 2020 study led by Ho et al. Found that users of chatbots often felt similar degrees of intimacy and understanding to either chatbots or humans. Another study by Song et al. Found that the performance efficacy of an intelligent assistant leads human users to experience passionate feelings, while yet another study by Branzag found that users of a particular chatbot found its emotional support to be consoling, much in the same way as we chat with fellow humans. And this has an impact. A 2021 study led by McLean found that advanced AI companions that maintain long-term relationships with users have the ability to moderate the user's emotions and induce purchase intentions and brand loyalty. Why is this the case? Well, it all comes back to the theory of planned behaviour. If an AI companion achieves emotional attachment with its user and then recommends a product, this is likely to positively influence all three antecedents that underpin purchase intention, just the same as if any other friend or family member recommended the same product. It's virtual word of mouth. However, unlike human friends and family, an AI companion can be programmed to promote a product by its developer at a moment's notice. And this raises some pretty obvious ethical questions. If developers create these AI products knowing full well that they have the potential to create emotional dependence amongst users, do they have an ethical obligation to disclose any recommendations made by the companion? Would these types of warnings even have an impact? In Australia, we've tried similar ideas with warning labels on cigarette packets, and the efficacy has always been quite limited. Also, is it fair to expect this of developers? Other apps frequently position ads in psychologically favourable places, or they use things like griefing mechanics to encourage people to buy things. So it may not be fair to hold AI companions to a different standard, but then again, maybe it is. Regardless, I think it's an important question for regulators and us as a society more broadly to address before AI companions become even more prevalent. Thanks for watching the video, and if you found it interesting, then check out our Sentient Horizons YouTube page and leave a comment or like. Also, consider becoming a member to help support our work. Until next time.